Bienvenidos a Disrupt Everything, podcast series by Isra Garcia. Reinvéntate a ti mismo y cambia lo que más te importa.
Hi everyone, this is, you guessed it, Isra Garcia, and as you know, I'm talking in English, well, rusty English to be more exact, to be more precise. It means today is I have an international guest. I have someone that has really impacted in my life, and I would say is the person that has created most positive, biggest impact and most positive impact too in this since I met her in December of 2018 in here in Amsterdam in synthesis retreat, and all through the 2019 she's been present in my life, even calling her soul sister, which is I think I deeply feel this connection. I'm talking about Natasja Pelgrom. She's a holistic transformational mentor. She's one of a kind, I would say. That's not the intro you expected, but that's the one I have on the side. She's one of a kind. She's a self-made woman who has endured and also persisted and worked her ass off to get into that moment. Natasja,
yes.
Welcome to Disrupt Everything podcast series.
Thank you so much for your beautiful invitation.
You're gonna, this podcast, if you are listening, I guess, if not, you were not listening and not listen to me, and not here, and not anymore, and not every part in the world, you're gonna awaken the power within you. You're gonna awaken the medicine within you. You wanna awaken the human potential within you. And Natasja is going to give us and help us to enlighten this path. Welcome to Disrupt Everything podcast series, a new episode to disrupt yourself and disrupt, of course, everything.
Disrupt Everything. Explora los márgenes o muere intentándolo.
Well, Natasja, let me give you a brief introduction, more detailed, but not really long. Natasja assists people who are seeking cutting-edge transformational tools to support their own healing and or personal development, and also to access their best self by working from within. As a medicine woman operating internationally, she curates medicine retreats, teaches empowerment workshops, and developed a psychedelic integration and, listen about this, self-love program, as well as she's specialist. She also curates cacao ceremonies. She's lead facilitator in Synthesis Retreat, the first medically supervised and legal psychedelic retreat in the world. And she is the founder of the holistic transformational retreat Awaken the Medicine Within, which I attended last year, and you can get the notes of the podcast I made, and also you can get the post I wrote about 1,200 words in the notes in the podcast. Besides, she has been training and working with the Bufo Alvarius medicine and also Psilocybin in over 500 ceremonies, guiding, empowering, and supporting from political leaders and multi-million dollars companies to entrepreneurs, YouTubers, or coaches, and angel investors to A-list artists, creatives, and also, of course, individuals. Natasja, what's been the journey so far to who you are now?
Wow. So
What's been the highlights?
the highlights. First of all, thank you so much for inviting me in this podcast, because it was already in the making for a little while. I'm happy you're here in Amsterdam in my home, and we're doing this finally.
Yes.
And then listening, so just a little note, just listening to you describing me, I go like, oh, really? Am I that? Is that me? Oh, it sounds pretty cool. And that's, and I say that because this segues into your question, is my highlights. I believe that my whole journey, I can go so many ways with this, but the biggest transformation where I decided to step into the life and the integrity and authenticity that I hold dear to my heart today started back in 2010. And in 2010, I had a business in the hospitality, events, and fashion industry in Amsterdam. And it was an amazing adventure. It was an uplifting for the ego. It was party. And when I say to listeners, sex, drugs, and rock and roll, you get the picture, right? So I don't have to explain anything, but that was definitely my lifestyle back then. In 2013, I realized that I had bought a ticket and it was overdue. And I wasn't living my full potential. I was actually denying myself a lot. I was in my spiritual closet as an extrasensory child. So that means that is sensitive for energies, feeling, sensations, clear hearing. So that as a child growing up and always being inclined to look for things outside of the normal, outside of the mundane, to look for answers or what these things meant to me, I decided that being different in society wasn't something that was embraced. And I wanted to do a different path. I still have a very entrepreneurial head, and I like lifestyle, I like events, I like creating experiences, and I love supporting others and being of service. So somewhere I've always done those things. But like I said, in 2013, I came to a point where I was codependent in my relationship with my partner back then. I was codependent in the thought patterns. I was codependent in substances, from alcohol to drug use. Codependent in relationships and friendships, in victim-aggressor roles. And I found myself at a point where I was standing behind this bar, which I held with a beautiful friend of mine, thinking, wow, when I turn 40, is this really where I want to be at in my life? And I can now proudly say I just turned 40 in the summer of 2019, and that everything has changed due to that decision, And that was, and there's so many little snippets of highlights of how I came to the introduction that you just made about myself, until where I come from, and saying to a business, well, here's the key. This is not financial viable. Here's not my happiness. This is not who I am. A part of me is that, I'm still a woman that loves to dance on red high heels on the bar, but I just don't have to abuse myself doing that, right? So coming to that point and doing that transformation, every single step that I made to the woman that I am today has been a highlight in itself.
And what's been those steps since you remember, since you were a child to now? Or those magic steps that brought you to who you are?
Yeah. I believe, the magic steps are interesting enough. It isn't a formula. It's not like you meditate this amount of hours, you do this amount of yoga, and you go to a therapist of some sort. You go, you go on a retreat for 10 days, and that was it. I believe the highlight has actually always been the pain. the heartbreaks, the disappointment, the shame, the guilt, and that became catalysts. The fear-based actions in my life became catalysts of wanting to seek for something better. So those are, and wanting to seek for a solution or an insight or a change of awareness, or and allowing yourself to completely be vulnerable in those pain moments. That was the deepest highlights and transformation. And that meant from the divorce of my parents when I was 8, growing up in a turbulent environment. I'm half Portuguese, half Dutch. Being different cultures, different backgrounds, having really young parents. All these things can have highlights in themselves and hidden traumas in there that show up later in life in the choices that you make, right? So, but those highlights have been my biggest gifts, and I think anybody that knows me well knows the term when I say, "What's the gift?"
It's one of the best questions I ever listened and I apply. Actually.
Yeah, and and it's like it's a way of redirecting your brain to look for a solution, right? I mean, we can approach it from a holistic approach. We can dive into gratitude practices, or we can just neurologically look at what the brain likes doing. The brain likes solving problems. So let's give it a way or a tool so it can solve a problem, and which is by asking yourself questions. And this is why I like, and sometimes it's really annoying when I'm in a frustrated moment myself, because those things will not pass. Whatever work you do on you, judgment, criticism, acceptance, self-doubt, the imposter syndrome, like all of that, we go through all of it in all stages. And but it's really funny, in a frustrated moment, my partner sometimes says to me, "So what's the gift?" I got like, okay. Beep.
Reverse engineering.
Yeah, exactly. But it's but it works. It works in a way where you go, and the fact that what happens is also you take a deep breath in. So what happens is not only on the cognitive part, but on the somatic, the body part, you actually take a pause for a moment. You can't pause life, but you can have like an anchoring into it where you go like, okay, what's the gift? And the first tendency, what you will do is take a breath by asking that question. And the fact that you have a moment of just silence and go, okay. And it could be as simple as, missing the train in the morning. And, a few months ago, I missed the train in the morning and I was super stressed about it because I had a meeting and I didn't want to show up late. And I had this idea, and I was like, and I need to text everybody, and I was frustrated with myself. Why didn't I leave earlier? And then I just stood there, and I was like, okay, Natasja, now apply it, right? So what's the gift? And I started laughing, and I was like, you know what? I realized I didn't have breakfast. I love a good coffee in the morning. So I walked back. I had an half an hour extra to have the most amazing breakfast. The sun started shining. I stood outside with a hot cup of coffee, and it was a bit cold, but the sun was on my face. And that experience, go like, thank you. And what's funny? I showed up and nobody was really ready for the meeting anyway. Mm-hmm. And in that second, just by asking myself that question, I came with a solution, and I realized I hadn't taken care of myself correctly that morning. Because how can I not? And that's why I got frustrated. I didn't take care of me. There wasn't the self-love applied to me by making sure that my body is fed, I've got enough time. And then when you miss the train, you get frustrated and, like angry and like, and it's the outside world that's doing you wrong. But, what did you do in the morning?
And you were saying that, ask yourself questions, right? When do you picture yourself in critical moments, and which questions did you ask in those moments, apart from what is your gift? Yeah,
so I hope my partner doesn't mind that I share this. I don't think so, he minds. So one of my teachers, so I've done the Theta Healing technique, which is a coaching technique of working on limiting beliefs. Theta Healing, for those who'd like to look that up. And I've done a lot of the modules in this method. And my teacher in Holland, amazing woman, giving her all the credits in the world for helping me to be the person that I am today, Kari Elias. I love her. And my partner was going through something personal, and I said, like, you know, I'm as partners in a love relationship, one with certain skill sets, I'm not his coach, so I shouldn't be working with him that way. You know, you can support each other, but I think an external person is always better in that. So I connected him to her, and he had a session and with her, and then there was some things that he didn't fully understood about the method. And we were on the phone. And I was making it... cancel. I'm going to reframe this. I was interpreting his words as a denial of my way of being in life, because he didn't fully maybe understood what was happening, or maybe even agreed with it, or was questioning how the method was really working, which is totally fine, right? But I was making it my own. And in that moment, I felt unseen, unheard, and I almost felt like my wounded part coming up of the medicine woman not being able to, you know, being on the witch being on the fire, you know, like this archetype coming up of, oh my God, I'm not seen, you know, this thing. So I felt that boiling up inside of me. I felt it in my belly and then in my chest, and then my throat became closer. You know, that feeling when you go like, oh shit, you know, like that. And I was defending. So what happens when you get in that state? I was defending instead of really having active listening of what he actually needed in that was maybe a bit more insight. But I made it about me. So what had I done in that moment? I could have reacted out of that, in that moment, out of the fear or out of the whatever was showing up for me, right? And I couldn't do anything else than just say, oh, honey, I need to take care of something. Let me hang up. I'll call you back later. And this wasn't true. I didn't have to take care of anything. I had to take care of me, because I couldn't react from a place of understanding and compassion, because I was feeling the way I was feeling. And I attacked, and I wanted to defend myself. And I felt this could escalate into a conversation, which is not what it's about. So, and this is where when I put the phone down, I went to sit on my couch. And then I had a little bit of a cry. And then I asked, okay, what's right about this that I'm not seeing? Because there is something about this that is just a matter of a shift of awareness. And in that moment, by me asking that question, and even more questions came up, like, you know, what is it about me that is wounded, that feels that I need to defend myself? Right? Because it isn't about him, it's what he holds. And then I realized it was a representation of the male in relationships that I had to the past, where I hadn't felt seen, because those were the relationships I created. I'm not pointing a finger to them. It's my responsibility. How I educate others how to treat me, right? That's all our responsibility. So this is where I started realizing, oh, my wounded part is just showing up. Okay, so what do you need? And then that's the most important question that you'll ever ask yourself is, what do you need? And this question gives you empowerment, but also allows you to be vulnerable with yourself and really figure out, what do you need today? You know, you can do that in the morning or before going to bed, but especially in those crucial moments when conflict is at play, internally and externally. And what I needed was, you know, to be seen, heard by myself, not by him, because he wasn't denying me. I was just projecting that onto him. So, and by the fact that I had realized that, and I had came to my conclusions that I come to, I called him back, and all my vulnerability, I explained. So this is what it did to me. This is where I'm coming from. This is why I'm conditioned the way that I am, why I reacted the way that I did. And I'm sorry, I just had to hang up with an excuse, because I did own it, with an excuse, but just for me to recap my emotions. And the only thing he did, like, yeah, of course, I understand. You know, by me owning my part, I gave him the opportunity to show up, as an adult, as a correct man, that keeps me safe, you know, not that I need safekeeping, but that is the reflection. You come in equality back to each other. So, but you have, the first step is becoming aware of it. And this is just so crucial, because when you become aware, you can intercept the action.
And how becoming aware?
Yeah. How do we become aware? And this is, you know, this is with, and then we put in the tools in your day-to-day life, you know, with the amazing projects that you hold with, you know, the standout program, alter productivity, you know, I always believe, follow what excites you, follow what resonates, follow what gives you inspiration, follow what gives you curiosity. Because those are the things that will help you individually. You know, the things that help me on my path are specific to Natasja. Yeah, you know, and those that help you.
These things.
But has been these things, and this, the first thing that when I explained my story just now about 2013 shifting from one thing, the first thing I did was sitting on a meditation cushion. When I was 18, I was going to the Zazen, to Zen Buddhism, because for me that practice made the most sense. It was no nonsense, sitting, you know, structured. That's what I needed when I was 18, you know. So, and I was meditating in that practice, and I had lost it. I'd grabbed back and forth into it, but I hadn't really dived into it as I had really indulged myself and back in those days. So, yeah, you know, the first thing I did was sitting. And sit with your shit. I think that would be a great meditation. Sit with your shit. And that's the first thing. I had to just be first before going anywhere. And, you know, but the toolkits, you know, therapeutic work, cognitive, from, you know, the holistic approaches. I believe everything can work for an extended time and period, and then you outgrow it because you need other things. A lot of the shamanic tools helped me a lot because of the energetics about it. Is my language, is what I understand, is what I speak in a way. So, but this could be so many different things.
Let's talk about the shamanic tools. What is in for us in the shamanic tools, and I mean, how we can approach and how we can benefit from it. Yeah. Because you, in some important part, you work with this. Yes, absolutely. What tools and how we can benefit from that?
You know, the beauty of what I love about science right now is that it's proving a lot of the methods and approaches of the indigenous tribes working with the human psyche, body, emotional well-being, and honoring community. And I think a lot of us have detached from community and connection and being of service, right? So one of the things that, for example, in the biohacking sphere, you know, if we talk about that, going into heating up the body. So let's say going into a sauna, which is sweat lodge, for those that know that term, a sweat lodge. What happens is that when we have depression, what they have seen now in science is that you can see that back into the body, and you can see the inflammation in the body being really high. So what you want to do is to actually heat the body up. And this is where sweat lodges come into place, where when you literally biohack into the system of heating up the body, it has a counter effect of actually healing the body at the same time, right? So a lot of the techniques that are now used, if we look back at what the indigenous tribes were doing, they were using those same techniques, but they just didn't name it that way because they didn't have the problems that we have today. It was just, their holistic approach has been, you know, connection with nature is something that they hold, you know, as an innate intelligence. The same thing goes for traumatic work in terms of body, somatic work. So from the looking at the body, one of the things that I love about, for example, somatic experiencing, if anybody wants to look that up, amazing technique on how to release stress from the nervous system. So trauma, trauma being in the biggest sense. Trauma can be a car accident to a broken toe and a loss of a relative. It can be anything, right? So our nervous system holds energetic stress levels, right? The energy of it. Animals release it. They shake it off. Well, this is a lot of in the shamanic traditions, shaking and ritualistic shaking and dancing is a way to release the stressor from the nervous system. So these are practices that we see coming back. It's just, we name it differently. We give it a different name or a different jacket, for people to understand or be more open to it. I think that's it grows into the lifestyle that we have today.
It's funny because when you think about the term shamanism, you start thinking about ayahuasca, about and all other medicines. But you showed us a way on a path that there has nothing to see with, nothing to do with the like medicines. I mean, there are a lot of therapies, and it's a big misunderstood. A misconception about shamanism, which is also always related with something you take.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, a lot of the indigenous tribes don't have the word shaman, right? It's only a very small niche that actually use the word shaman, but just lack of a better way for people to understand what we're talking about. We're not here to explain all the different words. But yeah, indeed, like plant medicines and having guides. These guides that know how to work with these plants are thousands of year-old knowledge. And I love how science is now, because, it's something of history. In 1960, psychedelics were legal in the US, right? Only in 1965, they became illegal.
Until...
Yeah. And now we see this whole, this research being done about the benefits of it, and we see that we are...
John Hopkins opening a facility for treating patients.
Amazing.
Fall down level 5, on stage 5.
Exactly, like dealing with grief, dealing with depression, PTSD, veteran work, dealing with people who had... cancer and recuperating mentally, what that means to you, with the fear of death and holding that, right? So it's massive. And I'm really applauding all the researchers out there that are going against, the grains of the structure. Right? Because even as a researcher, I can imagine there are complications working with psychedelics because we're so programmed on fear around it, which in one hand it served its purpose too, right? Right now,
to cage us in the mind.
Exactly. My ideal world would be that we are more and more academies, things that are actually applauded and supported by governments, where you have a standard and an ethics and a code of conduct, how to work with this, and that you have to go to school to drive a bus, right? And you need to get a license.
Why not doing it?
And you're working with people. That's a huge responsibility. As is the bus driver has a huge responsibility bringing 30 people from A to B. Imagine you giving your trust in me with your body, soul, everything you've got into this facilitator, which you're going with a gut instinct or a referral from a friend or something, but you just don't know. And it will be awesome at some point to have certified places. I do believe we're growing into that. In the next 5 to 10 years, things will change.
Can you elaborate more on being a facilitator into that transformational and altered state of consciousness? How is being a facilitator, how it should be, what is doing a good facilitator, and how somebody which might be listening this podcast can rely on somebody under what effects or what causes to go on that?
Yeah, so I believe, the responsibility goes two ways, right? So first of all, you have an interest of doing a plant medicines, right? Let's say that. You're responsible for making sure that your preparation and your integration are as important as the facilitation of the session with the set and setting, right? There are more and more facilitators that are doing a lot of prep work, informative work, integration work, and there are some that are not, and especially those that may be more inclined from a traditional aspect or shamanic aspect. You know, this comes with a whole different lineage and speaking, and is not really incorporated into it. Sharing circle is not incorporated in it. But we live in the West. We need a different kind of modality around it, right? So the responsibility is always with the individual. Educate yourself, read the books, read the consequences, understand where you are at with yourself. Are you wanting to have a treatment of some sort? You know, that's, even though there is so much proof out there, it still isn't the magic pill that's going to break you out of a matrix. You know, you still need to do the work. And the most classical thing that is ever said, I think, about psychedelics, you know, it opens a door, but you still have to walk through it. And what this means is that you will gain a broader perspective of insight. You know, people talk a lot about ego dissolution and mystical experiences and oneness. And I go like, yeah, but you can't buy into that. You still need to do the work. You know, you still need, because you're going to come back to the life that you created, to the partner, to the kids, to the job, to the traffic jam, all of that. And you're responsible how you're going to make sure that you integrate whatever comes up in the right way. So education is key. Then educate yourself on what kind of medicines do you want to do? Is that ayahuasca, psilocybin, DMT, whatever that may be? Then look at yourself. Are you willing to do it in a place where it's illegal? Do you want to risk yourself and the community in that way? You know, and there is so many people doing it that I believe, you know, that's going to continue in the way it is, but really realize those risks. And then educate yourself on creating a relationship, a rapport with the one that is facilitating. Ask questions. Ask for maybe a testimonial or a reference. Ask for how they work with it. What's the lineage or not? Are they coming in with a therapeutic knowledge? Ask them questions. Okay, what if I get a trauma, remember a trauma of mine, and I don't know how to deal with it? Are you able to support me? Or can you follow, or do you have somebody that could? Or, you know, what are the kind of dosages that you work with? Why do you work this way versus that way? All these questions, I believe, inform yourself. And my third one is never take risk. Your safety is number one. The facilitator's safety is number one, because you'll be influencing not only you and an facilitator, but a whole community that it's now growing and thriving and really wanting to do something better and bringing this into the world to help mental illness in a big way. So if you take a risk, you take a risk for all of us. You know, and this is what people do not understand or not fully take that responsibility. If you order something online and you do something and it goes wrong and it'll be hugely on the news, you know, dumb person so-and-so did this and this and this and jumped out of the window. You see, we shouldn't work with this. And this is where it's not about you, right? It is about you. It's about all of us, but it's about the community too, and how we show up with each other. And we need to build those bridges together. So that means also for the ones that are seeking this as a way to understand themselves better and to heal, you know? Yeah.
A quick question inside of this one. Where you can what are the more trustable sources where you can educate yourself? Books, mediums, like websites?
Yeah.
What will...
Theonation is a really good one that I like, and I will make sure, Isra, you can put it in the link. In Theonation, she's the one who's behind this. She's awesome. She has so much knowledge about shamanism. She's wrote a beautiful article on what to look for the right ayahuasca shaman. I believe she's doing an amazing job at that. And the third wave, I think it's Yeah, I think so. The Third Wave is a really good one. High Existence is a really good website that I like. And then educate yourself in terms of books. The most popular one at the moment is, of course, the one and only.
Michael Pollan.
Yeah, Michael Pollan, right? Who's like, I don't think in every retreat, about 85% of the people have read that book, and that's why they're coming. But the same thing is listen to podcasts. People
One of the
that
most
follow.
influential books of 2018.
Hell yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And listen to podcasts, Sam Harris has a good podcast. Tim Ferriss has a good podcast. The Third Wave has a few podcasts as well going on with different speakers, with different approaches, which is awesome. Maps is a good place, maps.org. There's so many books out there, and you can, even if you would Google psychedelics and shamanism, psychedelic and psycho-assisted therapy, you'll get like so much intel from that. Yeah.
3 concepts: holding space, sharing circles, and integration.
Yeah.
3 key stones, right?
Yeah.
Can you explain us about the importance of each of them on a guided journey?
Yeah, absolutely. So holding space, what was the other one?
Sharing circles.
Sharing circles.
And integration.
Yeah. So holding space.
I think people need to know about this if they want to go on, in not just in a plant medicine, just, in any therapy or any like uplifting experience to your emotions, to your spirit, to your body, right?
Yeah. So holding space is being present with what is in the here and now. Okay? So, and in loving kindness. Now, this to many sounds very conceptual, right? So what? How do I do that? What? But okay, now imagine if for some of you that are listening, maybe have children, and if you don't, you can imagine how that must feel, right? How does that feel to have a child? So just feel into that for a moment while you're listening. So in your imagination, you know somebody with a child, you're yourself a child, so you can feel into how would that be to be a parent of a child. Now, your child is learning something, and they fell while they're learning to walk, right? Will you stop them from getting up again and maybe falling down again? No, you will not, right? You will support them, you will give them the attention, and then you will applaud them to get up again, go, try again, correct? That's what you would do. So sometimes like this analogy with a child walking, when our children get bigger and older, we need to have sometimes a little bit of a different tough love, right? Where we see that they're going to make a mistake, but they need to make it because they need to learn it, right? Yeah. That's holding space. You're being present with what is, and you're in loving kindness without wanting to change where they need to be to learn. And this is our innate intelligence. This is something that we all can do. This is something that we do. However, we forgot to actively listen and hold space for each other because our narcissistic side is being fed more, throughout society. Let me listen to you so I can tell you my advice, so I can give you what I think.
Well, I can relate to my story.
And can relate to my story. Exactly. That's how we are wired. But holding space comes from a place of as a parent would be with their child. I don't want to make it too complex or too spiritual, but this makes it, the more human, the closer it is to where we really are at, right? And then
sharing circles.
Yeah, sharing circles. Sharing circles is where the wisdom is at. Because when we stand at the bus stop and we look at somebody and somebody's on their phone and they bump into you, you go like, oh, maybe you think of a swearing word and you're grumpy, whatever. I bet you if I put those people in a room and I would create a sharing circle, within 30 minutes, they'll be sharing their most vulnerability, because what we crave is connection. From all the data that is collected in terms of psychedelic knowledge in the retreat format, in the wellness transformational retreat format, the biggest thing that is grown is connection. And connection can be connection to the self, connection to the inner child, connection to each other, connection to nature, connection to, what my next steps are in life. So connection is something that is always important, and something that we remember, because this is sitting around the fireplace is how we learn, because we learned from storytelling. There there weren't books, so there was storytelling. I received teachings from a Hopi lineage through shamanic practice. And these are all oral teachings. So they're all spoken verbally, and they're through storytelling. And through those stories, that is how you learn, by asking questions after the story is told. And only by you asking question, you can learn. And my teacher can know where I'm at, where she'll give the information that is needed for the level that I'm having because of the question that I ask. So sharing is something that is important for us to create connection, for us to feel heard, vulnerability, to process, to gather wisdom, and for me, it's the most yummiest moment of any retreat. Because this is where I learn, is where you learn from each other. And it's only retrospect, a lot of the attendees realize the power of that. But yeah, it's my favorite moment. There is never enough sharing circles, in my opinion.
And it's so rich.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I remember the sharing circle of the retreat that you were in with the cacao ceremony. And so for the listeners to understand, we were with 9, which were 5 men, 4 women. Am I thinking? Yeah, I think it was. And the men, 2 ceremonies were done, and we were having our integration day. And the cacao ceremony is part of the embodiment of the integration, and the sharing circle is part of that. And then the men, you guys were holding space and buffing each other up emotionally in vulnerability. Like, oh my God, dude, I learned so much from you. This really gave me this insight. And, and it was so beautiful to see men coming together and being still very masculine, but owning their feminine side by showing up with their vulnerability. And for me, that was like one of my favorite sharing circles of all time, seeing men do that with each other.
Good to know.
You were part of that.
Yeah. And how about integration before jumping into...
Yeah. Integration. Well, everything you do in life needs integration. It's the only way where you're going to embody it. I mean... you can be a retreat tourist where you go from one retreat to another and then go back home and have this beautiful insight and tell stories to your friends like, oh my God, this and this and this happened. But 6 months later, your behaviors and your thoughts and the way you feel about yourself maybe shifted 10%. While if you really focus on integration, things can shift up to 80%. Right? So it depends on what you do with it and how seriously you take yourself. It's like if you're going to go to the gym every day, you're not going to see a difference every time you look in the mirror. You're going to go like, yeah. But suddenly after 6 months, you'll sleep better. When you go up the stairs, you're running basically. So, and this is where integration is the same way, is we expect to see immediately these results after, deep transformative work. Okay, yeah, now, so boom, bam, bam, it's done. I'm now going to be in this way. But then you still have to go to the gym, the spiritual gym. You have to go to the mental gym. You have to go to the emotional gym. You have to take care
of the soul.
The spa for the soul. Yeah, my last journey with Psilocybin personally with one of my best friends, Nienke, was indeed the only thing I could say. This is a spa for the soul.
And what's quick tips for a proper integration, for a correct integration?
Well, the first thing is create enough self-care. So create enough time where you're offline. connect to nature. Journal is crucial in this space. I've got dyslexia, so journaling for me sometimes is really exhausting, and I go all over the place. So I do a lot of voice memos. So for not journaling is not your thing, do voice memos. Spend time in nature. Practice something new, not because you need to be the best at it, or you're going to compete, or you're going to show it to anybody, but do something creative. Do something new. Do the physical aspect. Really go in the physical aspect. And this could be from dancing, shaking, yoga, to breath work. Holotropic breath work, transformational breath work has been, as powerful as a psychedelic experience to me and many others. So these are tools, but the most important thing is if you don't look at your calendar and say no to certain things and say yes to you, it won't change. Mm-hmm. If you don't get up that hour earlier to do your practice, then that's fine. But don't expect to be in a different place.
I just come from a Vipassana retreat as a server, and which is a real life integration. At the same time, you are meditating when you are serving to other meditators. But what I decided is to make time for myself, not posting anything in social networks, not even posting in my blog, which I post every day, 365 days a year.
Yeah.
And just going slow because I want to enjoy the integration and making it real, and so I can absorb most of the teachings and learnings I take with me, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And Natasja, what are the tribes you worked with, and what have you learned from them? The tribes you have worked with, and what are the most prominent things that you've learned?
What do you mean with tribes?
You've been working with tribes, right?
Yeah.
Which tribes, and what the biggest takeaways you can remember, you can think of?
Well, the biggest actually is always honoring and listening to your rhythm. The one thing that we lost a lot is a connection to nature. And I notice myself the moment I come back into my home or my place, you lose connection to nature. And working with tools that are connecting you back to the nature knowledge is something that gets you back into your body, into who you are, in honoring your rhythm and having the right relationship. So this is something that, within the Hopis, and
Hopis is that tribe from?
Is a tribe from North America.
North America.
Yeah.
What about exactly?
It's they're different. So you have different clans.
Okay.
There isn't much of them anymore that are practicing. And the Hopis do not work with psychedelics, just to name that and to just justify where that comes from. And my teacher in that she taught me that the one of the most sacred plants that they work with is a tobacco plant, as they see that as the first plant that existed. It's connected to spirit, so they don't work with the psychedelics with that, and. But that being said, it's that those teachings to me are such profound teachings, because the core of the teaching is about you remembering what is within you. It's not a textbook of here is a method. No, there is a story, and in that story, it's about it's about you waking up to your innate knowledge. And this could be connected with a plant. This could be connected with a stone. This could be connected with a color. An animal, a spirit animal. And these are toolkits that help you navigate the internal world. So as a child, I've always had, very vivid imagination. People, I would tell these weird stories to people, and people would go like, this kid is so, has got a big fantasy. Now I'm realizing half of it, I wasn't fantasizing. It actually is a shamanic practice. I was like, wow, who knew? But, great, not bad. But it's like, it's so that innate knowledge is all bringing in and activating what is within you and helping you navigate your life in a more connected way to you, what is within.
And what you realized is within you, what you've seen is within other people you've guided into the retreats, and how to navigate that experiences?
Wow, that's a strong question, Isra. I don't know which way I should go with that one. Wow, okay. You're good at this. You've done it for a while, haven't you?
I just love to ask you the questions I want to know.
Yeah. So you have to ask me again.
Yeah. So what you come to realize over all these years working as a holistic transformational coach, that is within you and is within, like, generalized within everyone that you've seen, or most of the, like, doing a segment of all the people you've seen, and also how to navigate.
This is
within.
A really good question. You know, one of my biggest insights and aha moments, and I love those big insights and aha moments, are the cliches of any teacher, spiritual teacher and guru. Because, you know, the moment you come out of a deep journey, you write down some words and then you look back, it's like, oh my God, Gandhi said this. You know, like, I'm such a cliche. But what happens is that for the first time in your life, you feel it from every cell in your body.
This makes a difference.
It's such a big difference. And one of my big insights, and this was, I think, back in, when we're now in 2020, so this was back in 2016 or 17. Yeah, I think it was about 16, where I came out of a journey and I just laughed. And it was a 5-MeO DMT Bufo Alvarius journey, just to specify. And I realized the words, we are the gift. The human experience is the gift. And why did I have this insight? Is I was enveloped in a soup of oneness and consciousness. I was completely out of my body, right? And I was in this space where I realized, being an enigma in it all, I was like, okay, this is great, but now what? Now what? And then suddenly something happened where my focus got shifted, and I got my focus back. Like, I stayed in that space with my awareness, and my awareness got shifted at the same time towards in my body. I had at the time 2 friends, a male and a female, sitting by my side, and they were putting their hands on my heart. And I could feel the coldness of the grass, what I was laying on, and I could feel the afternoon breeze on my skin. And I felt my skin getting cold. And then I felt the warmth of their heart going through their arms and through their hands into my heart. And then I got the biggest aha, which was, you know, without duality, you know, we can't see the difference. If I'm constantly in oneness state, that's all great. But I need to feel cold so I could feel the warmth. I needed to feel, my skin needed to feel the cold so my heart could feel the difference of the warmth of their love coming into my body. And that was such a big insight, that I've seen that at the essence of all, and all the journeys that everybody always wants to do, is going somewhere out there. I think the biggest journey is embracing the human experience.
And coming back to yourself.
And coming back to yourself and realizing, oh my God, we're living on a living library. Each plant has so much intel and knowledge that I don't think we have a clue yet on what to discover on this planet, and how much beauty and intelligence is out there, and how much harmony and balance we could be part of. And that, for me, is when I look at all the journeys, I believe that at a certain stage, this is where it will drive you back. I think the subliminal message is always somewhere in this place where it drives you back into you, into just be. You're good enough. You know, all the limitations that we create out of I am this or that, right? This is where it's, in the end, going down to is being in your body, being in your heart, being in your belly, being in this space, And whatever prevents you from being in that place is for you to grow and to understand. So it drives you back into who you are, into the human experience. So I hope this answers your question, but this is what came up for me to share.
Answers the question. Would you say that this is living your fullest potential, or if not, what would be like living your fullest potential for every listener, and how to?
Yeah, I believe living your fullest potential is realizing that you are on a journey of learning, and you've never come to a place of graduation.
Graduation meaning?
Meaning that you're accomplished. Like, okay, now I'm done. And I think living your full potential is realizing that you'll always be a student. Because this means that you're always going to be curious. You're always going to be a beginner's mind. You're always going to be open. Living your full potential is you're going to be creative because you're going to solve, let's say, challenges. Instead of problems, let's look at it. You're going to solve challenges in a different way. So I believe living your full potential is always being a student and wanting, not necessarily wanting, but having a life that is embodied experience.
So is that okay then, learning pretty much about anything?
What rocks your boat? Yeah. I mean, who are we to say anything about anybody else's what they want to learn? Mm-hmm. I do believe if you're complacent in one area, it will have influence on all the other areas.
Amen.
I've been complacent in 2019 with my body. I've been overly focused on being of service in a way that my practice started to suffer. The practice that I had with my own body, with my yoga practice, my Pilates practice, and I've seen the consequences of that, right? And I can't blame anybody. I just didn't make those actions to change it. Like, okay, and I'm Portuguese, so I like a lot of food, and I like bread and butter. So at 40, that's going to have a consequence, right? It's not, with 20, it's a different thing. But, it's like, so the consequences have been that the way that I sleep, the way that I show up, the way how my memory is working, the way that my endurances of having 2 to 4 retreats in a month, are different because I've been lacking in the physical endurance.
Balance.
The
human potential dimensions.
Exactly. And if you don't work at all levels of your human potential, then one is going to suffer, all is going to suffer. So you can be very cognitive and mental and read all the books in the world, but if you are not going to apply some of it, if you're going to keep on watching YouTube videos on how to draw, good that you watch it, but grab a pen and paper for F's sake, and start drawing, So it's like you need to make sure that on all levels you're fully bringing yourself to expression, whatever that is. Even if you're a CEO in a multinational, or if you're a baker, it's the same thing. It doesn't matter.
It's really curious because all the things you've saying, and if we linked all of them, it all comes to a place of self-love, acceptance, and also vulnerability.
Yeah. And
people just keep repeating themselves that they have to be the contrary and vulnerable. So how to be vulnerable?
Yeah. So this is, okay, this is a bit more complex than just say like, okay, here is to be vulnerable, right? Because we all conditioned, and each individual has.
I think it's linked with the limiting beliefs.
Yeah, exactly. Because your upbringing is different than my upbringing. We both might have similarities in self-worth issues, right? Or I call it the wounded healer, as we yesterday spoke about a little bit. Like so, yeah. So let's say your limiting belief is I would never be worthy having a partnership, a love life. And cognitively, you would think that I don't have that. Like maybe some of you were listening, I don't have that, I have a partner. But maybe in your feeling body, it's different. Maybe from a mental aspect, you think, no, I got this. But somewhere in your life, you're not having maybe the relationship where you're honored, where you're equal, or the kind of love that you feel that you want to be replicated, or maybe you're in one form of an abuse or another, or codependency, right? So in love, when that shows up, those limiting beliefs, it will stop you on so many levels, because it won't just stop you on the love life, but it will stop you how you take care of yourself. It will stop you how you are at work, because interesting enough, in your work environment is sometimes even a copy of your family constellation. Interesting enough, your boss can be one of your parents. If you look at the characteristics, how you feel about it, and you will copy paste, you go like, shit, that's true, right? I had a female boss once years ago when I was doing this sales job. And I was transitioning from the life that I have right now to the life that I had in the past, right? And it wasn't overnight. I just didn't open up a coaching practice and went like, okay, I'm your best coach, here you go. No, you transition. So I had a part-time job. I was doing sales in the meantime. And I had a female boss at the time, and everybody was super afraid of her. And at the same time, I was practicing the things that I'm doing today, meditation, doing the limiting belief work, doing all of that. And every time I would get into the office, I would look at her and try to be with compassion instead of fear, because I was scary of her too. I was like, oh, she's like, I don't want to connect with her, because every time her energy came around, I was like, oh, what's up with you? And but at a certain point, I realized I went to a 3-week course from Theta Healing, which is called Intuitive Autonomy. And it was 3 weeks in a row. And there you practice on all the limiting beliefs that you're holding. So you're cleaning up your closet, that you're cleaning up your act completely. So, and I was like, okay, I want to, and we had to work on something, and I had to think of something that was showing up. And she was showing up in this process of me realizing that she was mirroring a relationship that I had with my dad, right? And authority figure, not intimacy is not the word I wanted to say. Not intimacy, the other word. Where somebody is overbearing. Yeah.
Overbearing.
Yeah, so overbearing. Intimidating, that's the word, yeah. So intimidating. And I was like, oh my God, I'm just projecting this role. Like this role on her. And in the session, I cleared that with myself. And then interesting enough, the weekend after, when I went to work, she actually showed up at my table, put her hand on her shoulder, and was like, oh, you did a great job at that one thing. And I was like, oh, that's weird. You never gave a compliment. But because I had worked on me, my outside world started showing up differently. Or I started noticing the things that I hadn't noticed because I was programmed the way that I was. Right? And this is where when you work on limiting beliefs, you'll see it reflected back in your surroundings. And especially when it comes into love life and finances and work environments, the more you work on you, the more you'll see those things shift.
And the more you are open yourself to everything and to everybody.
Yes.
And just to let it go, right?
Yeah.
Natasja, you all managed that's the thing. What you are summing up is we are the medicine, right?
Yeah.
We are the healers. We are the coaches. We are the guides, the shaman. Is this why you created the retreat, Awaken the Medicine Within? Can you explain us a little bit about why, how, and what is in?
Yeah, so I worked a lot with people individually, working on trauma and addiction, limiting belief work, depression, with and without medicines. So just to be clear on that. At a certain point, especially with 5-MeO, DMT, Bufo, it's such a powerful medicines and transformative tool. And the one-on-one work that I was doing,
also do one-on-one work.
I do one-on-one work, but rarely nowadays. My focus is really on a retreat setup. And why is because the container of 5 days is a container where we can really help you embody the insight. the aha, the shift of awareness. Because 5-MeO-DMT is really about the shift of awareness. You know, like if you would look at the DMT is more visual experience, and 5-MeO-DMT from Bufo Alvarius is more of a shift of
It is.
of what you hold. And this is
every time is different. I've tried 4 times and
yeah, you know, it is every time different. And this is why we have 2 ceremonies and a lot of integration work, a lot of body work, from breathing, Wim Hof method. This time we'll have to Shamanic Tools, sound healing, sound practice. You know, so all the things in that setup has made for you to really have a grounded experience where it isn't something, because it's super hard. Imagine, for those that have never done it, but imagine you being in the state what I just explained. You're in this oneness soup, oneness soup, and then a few hours later you're in your car and you're going to go back home and the kids are yelling and your wife, you know, is talking about work the next day. And this is 9 out of 10 people. You know, this is how a lot of those ceremonies goes. Wow. And where I was seeing the real work happens in a contained place where spiritually, energetically, the container is held safe with the right practices, cognitive, but also physical, where the food is crucial. It's crucial how you work, you know, what the food is and how you work with that. A lot of the times people send me in the evening after a 1-day experience in the evening, oh, can I drink already a glass of wine? And I go like, really? You know, there's nothing wrong. Listen, I love a glass of good red wine. That's nothing wrong with that. But you're doing deep transformative work. You're putting toxicity in there. It's like, you know, imagine your lungs being completely baby lungs fresh and me giving it a cigarette. Like, what are you doing?
Destroying yourself.
And, yeah, exactly. So I decided that I really wanted to work in a 5-day container to really be able to support the holistic, the totality, the transpersonal of the human in a safe way. Because sometimes people just don't know what they need. Not because I know any better, but because I want to keep them in a safe setting as long as possible for really them to do the work that I need to do. And then awaken the medicine within, you know, I mean, all of it are tools. It's, you know, with some, it's not necessarily the 5-MeO that was the big transformative place, but it's one of the other tools that sets it off. But every single thing adds up, is part of the container, is thought about. You know, sometimes they do two ceremonies and then the breath work is a big breakthrough.
Breathing is one of the most impressive and breathless things I ever tried in my life, beyond psychedelics.
Yeah.
Quite beyond. And also it includes a cacao ceremony.
Yes.
What is a cacao ceremony?
So
and how it affects us?
Yeah, so cacao isn't a psychoactive. So that's to be clear. Cacao is being used as an elixir, health, ceremonial, already 2000 BC by tribes in the South America. Cacao, it's the difference between...
for those who are listening, it's not chocolate.
It's not chocolate, exactly, because you have cacao and you have cocoa. And cocoa, the difference is that cacao is raw, fermented, and cocoa is heated, which they make our nice little Nestle chocolate things from. By the way, we're not sponsored by Nestle.
Not yet.
No, never. No, so you know, the chocolate that you can buy in your supermarket. That's has dairy and that has sugar. Dairy takes out all the components, which is in raw fermented cacao. And what that does, and this is why it's my number one favorite medicine, because first of all, it's legal. And it's an underestimated power of what it comes to bring as a superfood for your body. It helps the 1200 neurotransmitters. It has zinc, iron, magnesium. It helps as an antioxidant. You know, it's one of the strongest ones. And it deepens your practice. You have a yoga practice, meditation practice, qigong, tai chi, walk in nature, journaling, creative flow, drawing mandalas, playing an instrument. all those things, and you drink cacao, it deepens your practice. It's like the spirit of cacao doesn't want to push you into anything, but it will help you open up. It's like, so it is connected to the heart, to the heart space. This is why I love using it, first of all, because it comes as a superfood for your body. And then in a sharing setting, you'll be able to share from a heart space in a lot more open space. And this is where then the integration happens, right? Because, when you work with Bufo Alvarius and you've taken the intake, it can be a reset for the system, right? It's a holistic reset for the nervous system, for everything.
This is why you are carefully designing a journey with all the tools that we need to have, since the kicking, let's say, to the integration, and just
exactly
with care and gentleness, integrating into your body and your soul.
Exactly. And this is where cacao helps with that. It gives a boost to your dopamine levels, your serotonin, and therefore your melatonin for nice deep sleep. So all these things are so important, especially in a retreat setting. But it's something that everybody can do. There is no patent. You don't need anybody. You can order my favorite, and I will mention this, Keith the Cacao Shaman, and I do have an affiliate with them, and I'm very specific on where and who I work with, but I've worked with a lot of different cacaos, and the one batch that has always been constant in energetics and in taste is this. So this has become my favorite.
We will share it in the
please do.
podcast notes.
They're really good, and they're very genuine.
And also really soon we will be releasing a video of you talking about the cacao ceremony.
Oh,
remember?
yes, yeah.
Still there.
Wow.
Still cooking.
Yeah.
Natasja, let's go for our rapid fire questions.
Yes,
okay?
I love it.
So, what's the tool you are mostly or likely to be identified with in the kitchen?
Identify myself with the tool?
Yeah.
A soup spoon.
And why?
Because if I look at life being soup, I spoon you. I'm a spoon. It's round. I like the round shape. I'm not a fork. I don't prick. I'm not prickly.
What's the book you've gifted the most?
What's the book I gifted the most? The Manuscripts of Maria Magdalena. It's a channeled book with Tom Kenyon and his wife about the story of Maria Magdalena, let's say the true story of the relationship that she had with Jesus, is a channeled book. There is a lot of practices in there and about priestesshood, and it's a really beautiful book on sexuality in the female. So Maria Magdalena, Manuscripts of Maria Magdalena.
You're a cook lover, food lover. What's your favorite? This is the favorite dish you like to cook, and why?
My favorite dish.
Or specialty?
It really depends on my mood, but my specialty are soups. I love making soups. So I love making a big pot of soup, as if I have 10 kids at home. By the way, I don't have any children for listeners, but I would have a big family, and everybody has. I like making really good, healthy soups and putting them away in the freezer, so when I don't feel like cooking, I can have my soup.
What's your most worthwhile investment under $100 or euros?
My most worthwhile investment under. Good question. Probably books. I mean, books. Books are, I have a lot of books. I have a collection of photography books, and so my books, I actually grow up being a photographer, right? I studied photography, so this is my thing, and so art books, I think that. And I love my crystal stones. I don't have a lot of materialistic stuff, but I love my stones. I love my plants. I make from avocado pits. That's actually avocado tree. I'm pointing towards my plant, by the way, for the listeners. So I love my plants, but this is
What's your stress reliever? Your best stress reliever technique?
Sex.
Sex.
Yep.
What's your favorite hobby?
My favorite hobby is, the thing is that I don't really have hobbies because they become my work.
Okay.
Like writing is then blog writing, like everything, working in Photoshop, that I love that. But then it's like everything I would do as a hobby is something that I channel into my productivity, the things that I love. So, yeah.
Your biggest failure?
My biggest failure. Holding on to shame too long.
Your biggest success?
Establishing a compassionate, acceptant relationship with my father.
Your biggest learning?
My biggest learning, whatever the question, love is always the answer.
And what's the thing you feel most proud of?
Most proud of? My relationships. My relationships with friends, like with you, and the people that I'm surrounded with mirror where I am in my own life. It's not about the finances, it's about the experience and how people make you feel about you and you make them feel about themselves. That's my biggest.
Your next retreat?
My next retreat, February 12th to 16th, only 2 spots available. Oh. And then April again, June again. So we have 5 retreats this year, but the next ones is February and April.
Any biggest inspiration?
My biggest inspiration, and definitely my Dutch grandmother. She's a children's book writer.
Wow. And what's the person who has impacted you the most?
Me.
Okay.
Yeah, me. I've made a lot of mistakes and I've had a lot of impact on me.
Where we can find you?
Where you can find me? Well, online through my website. I'm mostly based in Holland, in the Netherlands, mostly because of the work that I do here is legal for the most part. So, and I'm half Dutch, so I'm here in the Netherlands. For personal coaching is always online. For retreats is always in Spain, Portugal, and the Netherlands.
And NatasjaPelgrom.com?
NatasjaPelgrom.com, and then AwakenTheMedicineWithin.com.
Natasja.
Yes.
What would be if you get to have a spot on prime time?
Yeah.
1 minute.
Yeah.
Half a minute.
Yes.
On prime time. 300 million families watching this half a minute.
Yeah.
What would you say to them?
I would tell a joke.
Any joke?
Well, I would probably tell an anecdote. I mean, for a minute and a half.
No, half a minute.
Half a minute. Maybe I'll be silent. I think silence.
Really?
Yeah, maybe I'll just look them in the eye. I'll look in the camera and just be silent. I think that's it. What words can I, waste? I mean, yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, I'll be silent and look in the camera. That's what I would do.
I'll be silent now.
Okay.
Is there anything else you want to add? You can say to the listeners.
Well, I just wanna add something that Isra, and this is coming from the deepest place in my heart, and from a really genuine place of awe and admiration for the work that you do. And I really, I don't think you get enough recognition for what you put out there. And the program with the unemployed in Spain has touched my heart and some of my family members that I shared it with. You're vouching always for the underdog, so for me that means the world. And I hope, you really realize how inspirational you are to me, so yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, this is what I told you. You're gonna be awakened what is in you, what is within you. So now take it and do something with it. do something with it for you and do something for others that may don't have the chance we have. This is Natasja Pelgrom in Disrupt Everything podcast series, and I'm your, I don't know if it's your favorite or not, but I'm your host. So deal with it. I'm Isra Garcia, and you are being disrupted.
Esto ha sido Disrupt Everything by Isra Garcia. Encuentra el riesgo antes de que el riesgo te encuentre a ti.